I can just hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, absolutely fine. Are you okay?
I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good, thank you. I'm so happy that it's sunny. Is it sunny with you?
I was just going to say the weather looks glorious where you are, and I'm happy because it is finally lovely in Scotland. It is never nice here.
I know, I was about to say you get a tough deal with the weather. Yeah.
You absolutely do. But I'm at home today, so as soon as we're done, I'm going to sit outside in the garden and lap
Oh.
up the sun whilst it's here.
So, hi Millie, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to me today. I'm very excited to chat to you about all of your creative adventures.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no worries. So I thought we'll just dive straight in, really. You've obviously been acting from a very young age.
I
Yeah.
have. I have.
Yeah.
I started professionally when I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but I was involved with kind of child modelling when I was a bit younger than that. I did the whole musical theatre school as well. But really started getting involved with film and TV when I was about 8 or 9 years old, which seems like so long ago actually now, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing. So theatre though, where did you go for theatre and stuff like that?
I went to just a local musical theatre school based in Scotland, which focused on, well, that musical theatre. So we did sing and dance and acting every week. I was there, oh God, from when I was about four up until maybe 16, 17, just attending classes every week. It wasn't the thing that got me into acting professionally, but it was just, I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to be doing anything else at the time. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Um, but it was fantastic.
Oh, and amazing. So your parents must have been so behind you on this to be able to start going for some TV jobs at the age of sort of 8, did you say?
Yeah, they absolutely were. I mean, even my mum and I talk about it now, and she's like, "What did we get ourselves into? We had no idea." No one in my family is involved in the industry at all. My parents definitely aren't. Um, so that it must have come as quite a shock, really, to my mum when I told her one day that that's what I wanted to do. But I always tell people that I would not have worked for as long as I did on such big shows if it wasn't for her. She was totally behind me, and she really let me take the reins and kind of trusted me with what I wanted to do and in the way in which I worked. And she kind of let me take control of that a little bit while still looking after me and supporting me just the way that a mum does. But she's fantastic. And yeah, I wish that I had seen it all from her perspective, actually, because obviously she was an adult and she was there kind of looking on from behind the scenes. And some of the stories she'll tell me, I'm like, I have no recollection of that happening, but she must have just had such a surreal time observing it all.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, maybe, but perhaps you probably don't know. Maybe you've not had that chat yet, but I'm wondering how she sort of navigated it from the moment where you were like, no, this is really what I want to do. And I suppose she reached out to some agencies and things like that for you.
Well, as I said, was involved in some child modelling when I was a little bit younger. So I did have a professional team that kind of helped us navigate it all. My first big acting audition was for a BBC drama called Single Father, and it was David Tennant's first job after Doctor Who. So it was pretty high profile, very well managed. Everyone was quite excited about it, and we just heard about it from word of mouth. Actually, my mum took me to what was an open casting with loads of kids. They were trying to match up a family. So it was an all day type thing where you got matched up with options to be brothers and sisters and that kind of thing. Um, and after that, I think my mum definitely kind of got the gist of how the business worked, but we still did it in our own way, which I mean, I totally credit her for that. She just kind of let me roll with it. But yeah, I mean, we just kind of kept an eye out for auditions and what was coming up and what was happening and keeping our ear close to the ground on what was happening in Scotland because that's where I'm based. That's where I worked for the first few years of my career. So a lot of it was word of mouth as well, just hearing from people.
Amazing. How was that? I mean, you're obviously aware of David Tennant. Were you a Doctor Who fan and things like that? Did you obviously knew about David Tennant? Were you a bit like, oh, what am I going into? What was your sort of feeling of going into that sort of environment for the first time, really?
I knew who he was, but I actually hadn't watched Doctor Who at all before.
I feel like that might have helped.
It totally did, and I've worked with quite a few. male actors playing my dad's, especially high profile, very successful actors. And I think if I knew exactly who they were and what their previous work was at the time, it would have totally put so much pressure on me and I would have been nervous and I would have got a bit flustered, especially so earlier on in my career and at such a young age. Um, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into
Mm.
because I hadn't been on a set before, but the first couple days I just totally got the gist of it and totally kind of understood what we were there for and how it was going to work. But David was absolutely lovely, and it definitely did make it better that I wasn't aware of him and how high profile he was in Doctor Who. It was just such fun and games, and we had a laugh.
Yeah, oh, that's great. That's really great. Yeah, he was my absolute favorite Doctor.
He is the best Doctor. Now, look, I've obviously watched it all,
He's so
and
good.
he is my favorite Doctor, but that might be biased, but.
No, no. And I also just had the biggest crush on him when I was younger. I was just there. I love him. Amazing. So obviously you also worked on later you worked on Danny's house.
I did.
Yeah. And then obviously was that the sort of the next big thing that you did, or was there a bit more in between there?
In between, so when I finished Single Father, I went for an audition for a BBC crime drama called Case Histories, which was based on these amazing novels by Kate Atkinson. It was her Jackson Brodie detective series.
Oh wow. Mm.
And Jackson Brodie, Jason Isaacs played Jackson Brodie, which again, I knew who he was, but I wasn't really aware of his previous work. I
Mm.
was a bit young to have seen a lot of the things that he was in.
Mm.
I went for quite a few auditions for that, and towards the end of the audition process, it was a lot of meeting with Jason and seeing how we got on and how we worked together. Because the majority of my scenes were with him and working very closely with him. So I did that for 2 years. It has been, in hindsight, when I look back, it was definitely, I was the luckiest person to be on that film set working in that job. I mean, going from an environment with loads of children and single father and playing a family and a lot of newcomers to stepping into a set with like Amanda Abington, Victoria Wood, Jason Isaacs, just iconic
Yeah.
British actors. I was very lucky to be there and I probably learned nearly everything I know about the industry from those people and from being there. So I did that. Um, and then moved on to Dani's house, yes, which was my first kids job, which was just the most fun I've ever had, ever, I think, on a job.
Yeah, I wonder how those sort of sets kind of run because obviously, yeah, the majority of the actors are younger. So I'm wondering how that sort of runs as well. Yeah.
A lot of the kids, we all lived in the same house together, and we had a woman looking after us called Jackie, who then went on to be my chaperone for the next
Oh wait,
10
I didn't
years.
realize you all lived in like a house
We
together.
did, yeah. We all lived in a house, which was amazing. Not everybody, not the adults, but all the children that needed care, needed a chaperone, all lived in the same house,
Mm.
which was surreal. I had grown up watching Danny's house and was very aware of who these people were and was very aware of the stories. I actually sat on the sofa with my mum one day watching Tracy Beaker. Danny's house was a spin-off of Tracy Beaker. And I said to her, I'm going to be in a show. Like, I'm going to be in Tracy Beaker one day. And then
Mm.
years later, Danny's house was kind of what I was up to. That was surreal because like I said, I knew who all these actors were. I knew the characters that they played. I knew the house in which it was set. So stepping into that was I was like, wow, can't
Mm.
believe I was living the dream for
Well,
being
yeah,
20
because it's
years
your
old.
childhood. Like I watched Tracy Beaker all the time when I was a kid. Like, yeah, you get to know that house.
It absolutely was. But we all lived together. We did tutoring together. We ate together. We did our weekly shops together. So that was the first time as well, actually, that I'd lived away from home without my parents. I was without my mum, without my family, and with a chaperone from Monday to Friday, and then we'd travel home on the weekend.
So,
So a
so
lot
where
of
was
life
that?
lessons were there.
Yeah, where was that film then? Do you know?
We filmed in Edinburgh, so it wasn't
In
too far
Edinburgh.
away. I mean,
Okay.
my mum dropped me off and picked me up each week.
Okay.
Um, but I was away Monday to
But yeah,
Friday and,
it's
and
still,
some
yeah.
weekends stay on. But it was phenomenal. I think that experience of living away whilst working at such a young age has totally shaped how I live my life now. And actually,
Mm.
if I was ever to have kids, or even when my younger brother was born, I was like, just send him away, not even to work, just send him away to kind of live without us for a while, because it totally has been the most positive experience that I've ever had at that age. A lot of people now, um, I still work in television, but behind the scenes, and a lot of people now ask me, "Oh, do you regret working and like
Mm.
so much when you were younger and being away from home and not
Mm.
doing school in the conventional way?" And I would absolutely choose to do that 100 times over. It was the best experience. I did not want to be doing anything else.
No, I can imagine. I can imagine. I spoke to a previous actor before called Lee Abate, and he was a childhood
Mhm.
actor on Waterloo Road.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing. He was like, "Oh, whenever the tutor used to come around the corner to be like, it's time to actually like do some homework and stuff now," they'd be like, "No, we're having so much fun on set. Like, we don't want to," type thing. So, fully get that. And to be in a house full of people like of similar age groups, that must have been so
Yeah.
much fun as a
It
kid.
was
Oh,
absolutely.
that's amazing. So, what sort of, if you can, I'm wondering what sort of advice you could give maybe on a film set or maybe some pointers. It doesn't have to be obviously be everything, but some key things that maybe stand out to you now that you've been through that process quite a few times to other people that are maybe starting out, and what sort of advice would you give to them on set, really?
I guess general work ethic goes a long way. But the way that film and TV is, an edit can make anybody look good. But if you're difficult to work with or not the easiest to work with, I always think that kind of stands out and doesn't do you any favors. And even little things like being there on time, or if the makeup ladies ask you to wash your hair every day, wash your hair, come ready for work, have that work ethic, learn your lines, because it does make everyone's job so much easier.
Yeah.
Um, Also on a film set, just being aware of what everyone else's job is. I think it totally will influence your work as an actor. And it is just interesting, ask the camera guys
Mm.
to have a look in the camera when they're set up. What does that shot look like? What will I look like in
Mm.
that shot? How will that influence your movements, your acting? You don't want to block another actor. Of course, there's a director there kind of directing you and telling you what to do, really, I guess. But being aware of what everyone else does and being considerate, you're often on a tight schedule, you're running behind, it's maybe a high tense scene, or it's a bit emotional. If you're aware of what everyone else is doing, it can make your job a bit easier, but it can also make their job a little bit easier as well.
Yeah, no, that's really great. That's really great advice. And I'm wondering from, I mean, the industry has changed, I think, a little bit since obviously when you were younger. And I'm wondering like if there's anything that sort of stood out, like, obviously we self-tape a lot more now
Mhm.
or things like that. Is there anything that sort of changed within the industry that you've gone, oh, this is like kind of a big shift, or like there's something different happening from when maybe you were younger and starting out?
I'm currently working in development, unscripted development, which I didn't see myself working in unscripted at all, but I'm absolutely loving it, and it is definitely a career that I'm going to pursue.
Mm.
So I'm thinking about commissioning a lot, and I'm in those kind of conversations, and I think how things are commissioned, how things are greenlit is totally different. I mean, I remember when we're starting out with Millie Inbetween, which was an idea that evolved with the team from Dani's house. Um, we got a pilot together with our amazing writers. We auditioned for that pilot, we cast it. We all went to the BBC, which was then in London, and we read the script in front of execs, channels, our team. We read it in front of everyone almost as if it was a live performance, and that very rarely does happen now. I think it is a shame that our industry is a little bit quieter. COVID has definitely affected it, but um, I think the way we write as well, a lot of things are commissioned just based on idea rather than full episode. But that has really shocked me, and I think I was so lucky to experience being in
Mm.
there and reading in front of all of those people and being commissioned in that way. Then, what, over 10 years ago? Because I hear of that very rarely happening now.
Mm. Yeah, no, no. And let's talk about Millie in Between, which is amazing that you got to be part of such a creative, I don't know, like process of creating a show from such a young age. That's amazing. And so I'm sure most people will know the show, but it's about obviously yourself in the middle of a divorced parent house, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, tell me about how that process began, and how you managed to get it, sort of funded and all of that stuff and on the TV.
Well, when I was on Danny's house, I'd actually joined in the last 2 years of the show, so we knew that it was coming to an end. And our amazing exec, Elaine Sperber, was looking for the next thing, really, or another new project. And at the time, we'd found out that around 40% of kids in Scotland had a divided family or had step parents, things like that. And we thought, why is no one making a show about this? Let's do it. And I was very keen to work with that team again and very keen to
Mm.
continue working in kids' TV and tell such an important, emotional, I guess, story. Um, so we did just that, as I said. We got our amazing writers to draft up a pilot. We cast it. We went to the BBC and we got it commissioned. And we at first did 3 years, 3 series that were set. It was a done deal, and after that, we just kind of we were just seeing how it would go, really. But it was amazing to be there from day one of scripts getting written and deciding
Mm.
who we're going to cast and what the journey is going to be of these amazing characters to, I mean, I got to go into the edit and things like that as well, the end, and see when the show gets delivered. So to be there literally from day one until a series gets delivered to the channel was absurd, overwhelming, bizarre, incredible. It was amazing. I maybe will never have that experience again. I hope I do, but
Mm.
I was very lucky to be doing that at such a young age as well. We'd started when I was maybe 11, 12. We started filming when I was 13 and I was there up until I was 19, just turning 19.
That's
Um,
incredible.
which yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that. I love that. Was there anything that when you were going through sort of the casting process that you saw, um, that just sort of maybe you thought, oh, it works that way type of thing? Was there anything surprising to you about the casting process when casting other people to be in Millie in Between?
I mean, this is kind of an obvious one, but I had never really thought about it before. How people look. Yeah, to play families, you cannot have someone that is, blonde, blue-eyed, 6 foot tall to play my sister because I am 5 foot and have dark features, So all of these conversations, I was surprised. I guess watching TV, it's obvious you maybe don't think about it, but when we were having these conversations, when we were auditioning people, I thought, wow, these conversations really do take place. How obvious, but it was just, I was like, they really do think of everything.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That's so true. Oh, thanks for reading that. That's great. So, you now, I hope I'm getting this right. You now work for Raise the Roof Productions. Is that
I
right?
do.
Yeah, amazing. So what do you do there? And yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Well, Raise the Roof is the production company based in Glasgow working with Kirsty Allsopp and Phil Spencer. So I didn't plan to go into unscripted television. When I finished Millie Between, went to university and studied English literature. I'm an avid reader. I love to write. I thought every good story starts with words on a page or words on a screen. So, I thought I'd try that out. And when I was finishing uni and looking around for jobs, it was just after COVID, and the industry was quite quiet. And I thought about doing something different. I had loved scripted TV. That is all I'd ever known. I thought, let's try something else.
Mm.
Um, so I began working for Raise the Roof. I first started working on their lovely crafted Christmas show with Kirsty for Channel 4. So I got to do that. I got to kind of help cast that. I was there on the shoot, worked on it right through until post-production. And I then worked on Kirsty and Phil's Love It or List It, which is just a property hunting program, really a
Nice.
property show, Channel 4 life show. And I am now with them working with their amazing development team, and have been since the start of the year. So I've been there for about 2 years, maybe just over, and I've ended up in development, which is absolutely fabulous. I am loving it so much.
Oh, amazing. Well done. Yeah. So if I don't know if you can answer this, but if, possibly if people are like writing things or, perhaps wanting to write some sort of TV series or something, is there any sort of pointers and tips you can give to people that may possibly help in that development stage or maybe them getting picked and things like that?
getting loads of people to read it might seem like an obvious one, and but people that are in the industry, writers, directors, actors, sending it to them, even if it's people you know, you can reach out to people on social media and get their feedback. They might have, if you're a writer and you reach out to a director and they read it and give you feedback, that might be criticism that you might not have thought about. They might say things from their perspective that you might not have thought about when you were writing it. Logistically, I mean, to get things greenlit, having a name attached. If there is an actor that you would love to play the main lead in your show, reach out to them, reach out to their agent, send them the script. Do they want to back the story? Having a name attached to it. If it's, Karen Gillan and you want her to be the main part in your six-parter for BBC, send it to Karen's agent. If you go to the BBC and say, look, Karen's really interested in this story, then that'll encourage them to at least read it and consider the idea. But it's hard, and the industry is changing so much, and especially because we stream things all the time rather than watching linear TV. It's kind of settling a little bit, but and write as much as you can.
Mm, mm.
Practice, write as much as you can, and no idea is a bad idea. You might think one day, oh my God, that is the worst idea I've ever thought about ever, and put it to one side. But do not delete it, don't throw it out, do not completely forget it, because you might, with fresh eyes, the next week come to it and think, oh, actually, there's something in that. I can work that up for another channel or a streamer or another actor.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, no, and with that, so your sort of like writing experience and things like, is there any sort of processes that you use when you sit down to write or anything like that?
I often think about my real life experiences. I mean, a lot of people think that Millie Inbetween was my real life. It wasn't at the time. It was just an
Mhm.
important story, and I was Millie, so let's tell it.
Yes.
But writing authentically from real experiences that have happened to me is a great starting point, I think, because you're not trying to think about someone else's emotions or how someone else would be feeling. It's purely your experience. Get it down on paper. I always handwrite things as well because I think that feels a little bit nicer. I feel my mind can just dump ideas on a bit of paper, and then if I want to refine something, I can type it up. But writing from my own perspective, from my own experiences, definitely helps me get stories down, and then I can flip them to be the point of view of someone else, or I can work them up into a completely different story. But I've started from something that I've experienced, I felt, and I've been able to kind of write down on paper and work up from there.
Yeah, no, that's really important. Yeah. And what sort of project would you like to work on next? Is there anything like that's like tickling your fancy that you're like, oh, I would love to do that, either in the production side or acting side, if there is?
It's so hard. It's really hard in television, I think, because you never know what the job is going to entail until you're there actually doing it. I mean, even I always knew that I wanted to kind of work in behind the scenes and development, but I didn't really have a full understanding of what that was until I was there every day doing it. I love crime drama.
Hmm.
Very stereotypical, I know everybody does. I would love to work on the next Line of Duty, Luther, something British and gritty and gives that kind of nostalgic feel of early 2000s, not
Mm.
very polished, um, good man doing bad things, kind of,
Yeah.
the way Luther is with his big coat on. I would love to bring that kind of trope back. And do it in a real gritty, unpolished way. I think everything we watch now is very polished and looks such high production value, which of course that's just the way that telly is evolving. But I want to kind of do something a bit grittier and a bit,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
not
so
as
true,
polished.
actually. I do think we have lost a little bit of that. I do definitely like, some of my favorite TV shows at the moment are like things like, The Bear and things like that. And like, The Bear is beautifully shot and it's very arty and it's all food related and it's
Yes,
bold, beautiful colors. And then you're like, okay, but where, and then you watch something from, like you said, from like the 2000s or something like that, and you go, what a different feel that this is. Not to
absolutely.
say that they're bad or anything, because they're not bad at all. Um, but you kind of want a little bit more of the gritty realism that I think that we might have lost over that time.
Totally. Absolutely. It's like comparing Skins with Sex Education. Both are incredible, both tackle such amazing topics for young people, but they just have two totally different feels. So I think bringing that kind of grit of early 2000s, unpolished, raw, feels maybe a bit more authentic. It makes you feel like you're experiencing it rather than you are watching
Mm.
something. So I would love to do a really high profile series that kind of brings back that feel.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen your TikTok page because I've seen that you are like a crime enthusiast of like different things, and you watch so much stuff, which is vital. I think as an actor, you have to be constantly watching,
Yeah.
or any creative really, actually, just constantly watching different things and what's out there and stuff like that. And I'm hoping that you could provide maybe three series that I could go and watch and everyone else could go and watch because I love a crime series. So.
Oh my goodness. My I will try and not do the ones that we've all seen, Happy Valley and that kind of thing, although Happy Valley is one of
Really
the
good.
best shows on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that can be my fourth one. Number one is a show, a BBC drama set in between France and the UK called The Missing,
Okay.
which is about a family that are on holiday and this isn't a spoiler, it all happens within the first 5 minutes, and their son goes missing, and it's just about the team trying to find him. The story is incredible, and just when you think that you've figured it out and you think, he's done it or she's done it, it totally flips that on its head. The main detective, Baptiste, is one of my favorite characters in anything ever. They did make another series called Baptiste on the back of that, which is good, not quite as good. But The Missing is phenomenal. I think I've seen it like 7 times. It's such a comfort show, which is weird because it's a crime drama.
Yeah.
But I love it. I'll just stick it on if I'm, in the house one day and it's raining. I've not got anything else to do.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, this is a hard one.
It is hard. I'm sorry. I mean, like I love things like Broadchurch and stuff like that,
Oh,
but I feel like
yes.
I watch the things that everybody watches. Do you know what I mean? I'm one of those people that like rarely takes a risk, and I'm really trying to push myself out my comfort zone to watch things that possibly like I'm not 100% sold on,
Yeah,
because I feel that that's how you develop your taste and your sense of creative sphere. Like in a way, I feel like you
absolutely.
really understand that a bit better. And so yeah, so I'm a bit selfish really by asking for tips.
Okay, no. The Missing is one. This isn't a scripted one. It's Channel 4's 24 Hours in Police Custody, which is everywhere. It's all over my social media as well. But it is just about that. It is about people that get arrested and what happens to them in the next 24 hours. It definitely does have that kind of raw, authentic, gritty feel that I was speaking about earlier. The my favorite part about it is the insight you get into the team in the police station. So whilst the focus is on the crimes and is on kind of big interrogations, you then get to see them chatting about what they're having for lunch or if they're going to be watching the football at the weekend. And it just really reminds you that people doing these jobs are real people and
Oh,
just
yeah.
chatting about all mundane stuff while they're watching on the telly.
Mm.
My third one would be Inside Number Nine on BBC, which has sadly just had its ninth and final season, with Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith. It is a phenomenal kind of dark comedy. You do not have to watch any of it in order. I think some
No.
of the episodes are linked, but each episode is a self-contained story, and Reese and Steve write all of the episodes, but they also star in all of the episodes of different characters as well.
Mm.
It is, I like to think that it kind of walked before Black Mirror could run. It's very like an amplification of things that already exist or myths that are kind of in the ether but totally amplified.
Mm.
And the fact that they two went to drama school together, decided to write, and now have an amazing series that they write and produce and star in is just
That's the dream, isn't it? To just be
uh,
like, I want to write what I want to write and then get it on and just
yeah,
have play around and have fun with it. Definitely.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, thank you for that. There was a stage production, wasn't there? It's just finished, I think,
There
in
was. Yeah, I just missed out on tickets. I was in work and I was in the queue and there was like 10,000 people trying to get tickets and I missed out.
Is it
But
doing a tour? I wonder if it's doing a tour because it's just left London, but
it is doing a tour. I was trying to get tickets for Edinburgh, but hopefully it'll come back or I can get some resale
Mm.
tickets or something.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. It's something that is on my list actually that I do need to watch. Definitely. Lovely. And then sort of my last sort of question is like, what sort of advice would you give to any creative?
Politely bang down the doors of people that you want to work
Oh, that's a
for
good
and
one.
work with. Um, I've said a million times, and everyone will know the industry is a little bit quieter and how we work is changing. And I think if you don't ask, you don't get. There is a way to do it politely, but make yourself known. And don't be scared or put off when people don't reply to your emails or don't, I don't know, accept your invitations on LinkedIn or whatever. Continuously email, do it politely, update people of what you're doing, what you're up to, what you want to be doing next.
Mm,
It could pay off. You know, when I was just finishing university, I reached out to an amazing company based in Glasgow that work in both scripted and unscripted. And I emailed them. I emailed the kind of owner of their company and no reply. So I thought I'll email again when I finished uni and send my CV, no reply. And for years and years, there was nothing. And then now we work in the same building and we chat all the time. And we finally got a meeting and they know what I'm up to and things like that. So it really does pay off. And I think persistence does not go unnoticed.
mm,
The reality is, if you're emailing a company and you want to work for them, or I don't know, if you want to work for Louis Theroux and you're emailing Mindhouse, they have hundreds of people emailing them every day, and your email might get lost, but whoever's reading those emails might recognize your name from emailing a couple months before, and might think, well, I'll just reply and build up a network as much as you can. Build up a network of people that do the same job as you, people that don't do the same job as you, actors, writers, directors, people that work, if you work in scripted, reach out to people that work in unscripted, know what is going on, know what other people are doing, because you never know, you know, if you have some free time in the summer, someone that you've met a while ago that works in a totally different field might say, oh, I know someone that could work for us for 6 weeks or however long it is. So build up a strong network. And I think also that can really help mentally and emotionally when things are a bit quiet, or, you know, if you've kind of worked on something that wasn't really for you and you're not sure on where to go next. If you have a network of people that just get it and you can chat to and reach out to them, then it absolutely makes the world of difference.
I think that's a really good point about the persistence thing because I don't know how you feel, but I certainly feel, you know, as an actor, when you reach out to people and you don't get a reply, and you're like, oh, I can't email again because that's annoying, or I'm being too much, or whatever. And I think there is a balance with that. Obviously, I'm not going to bombard somebody with emails,
Of course.
you know, like once a week or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, every couple of months that go by, what is really the harm in sending, you know, that one email that just reintroduces yourself, and trying again? And I think people are either in one camp or the other. It's either too much bombarding or it's not actually anything. It's one email and they go, oh, they didn't reply. Okay, that's it. But
Yeah.
actually, like rightly as you said, like there are thousands of people trying to do this all the time, and yeah, you have to have your say. That's a really good point. And I know I said that was my last question, but I am now you've said something else that I'm interested in is the role of like, sort of like LinkedIn in this industry. I don't know. I maybe as side production side, it's something that people connect on, but I'm wondering if that's something that actors connect on or not.
You know, I wouldn't say so. I know a lot of actors that are on LinkedIn that are on it because they also write or they also direct or they also work in editing or something like that. And that's maybe more so what they use it for. I do find it a bit cringe actually. You know, I'm pleased to announce that I am now working for blah blah blah. But you know, if you don't toot your own horn, who will?
Yeah.
I but you know, when I started working in film and TV, we weren't quite at the stage yet where you would look at an actor's Instagram or their socials
Mm.
even before they're in the room, which is crazy to think that is now what happens. But you know, it does, and that's fine. We have to acknowledge it and embrace it. I've not really heard about that happening for actors specifically with LinkedIn as much, but you know, from now working in development and working in unscripted, everything gets background checked. So if you do have a LinkedIn and you know, make it reflect your best self and what you're up to and don't be afraid to to your own horn. I think not for down south, but especially in Scotland and in Glasgow, the west of Scotland, we have this kind of modesty. Um, that is great because it's really lovely to come across as humble and just get on with your work, and that's fab. But you also need to kind of shout about your work a little bit, and I think that that comes into the whole persistence thing as well. Tell people what you are doing and how good it is, or if you're working on a project that you really believe in, tell people, update them, put it on your LinkedIn, put it on your Instagram. Yeah, LinkedIn I do find a little bit cringe, but people reach out all the time for jobs, and I see jobs advertised there all the time, especially for short films and things like that. So I guess it is worth having, but Instagram maybe more so.
All right. Yeah, thank you. That's really useful. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and chatting. It's been really useful. Really, really
Thank you
great.
so much for having me.